What's going on, everyone? Austin John Plays here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the trailer analysis for Pokemon Legends Arceus from the Pokemon Presents on the 18th. We have about 10 minutes of footage that we are going to be going through today. Pretty much all of it is new footage, and unlike the previous analysis video, we don't have a previous game to compare to, so all of this is going to be more of a, real-time analytic of what we're actually going to be seeing. I believe everyone can agree that pretty much everything about this trailer looks like a vast improvement over the one that we've seen previously, so I'm not going to be talking so much as far as the graphical detail. And this is one of our first perfect wide views of Mount Coronet in the background. The first thing that I'm starting to wonder is if we're going to have any climbing ability in this game. Like Breath of the Wild, if you see something, you can go there, but it would appear as if, though, this large cliff face here is actually limiting your ability to go up. We do know that you can fly, but we don't know if this is still considered like a wall that you can't go over. Our next scene here is going to be overlooking an ocean. We have some Buizel and a Floatzel just kind of over here chilling. Two large rocks that I can't help but notice that it reminds me of the top of Pinsir's horns. We also see two Pokemon in the distant background, unsure of what they are at this time. Our next scene here shows us some wild Turtwigs and some wild Yanmas. Now, while Turtwig is not one of the starting Pokemon that you can be gifted at the beginning of the game, it would make sense that the Sinnoh starters are actually wild Pokemon in this area, because, this area will go on to become Sinnoh. Our next scene, we see the trainers sneaking up from the left-hand side to some Swinub and Piloswine. The Sinnoh region is based off of one of the most northern parts of Japan, and that's typically why there's a lot of snow visible in Diamond and Pearl, so it would make sense that we have a large amount of snowy area in this game. Our next scene, we see active snowfall, and what I believe may be our first look at the actual day-night cycle. We don't know if this is going to be a dynamic cycle that is just going to change, in-game clock similar to Breath of the Wild, or if it's only going to be specific times. We see some Ralts and a fully evolved Gardevoir just chilling out in the wild. We also see a large structure up here. I don't know if this is just a rock or if it's going to be something else of more importance. Clefairy are just hanging out underneath the moonlight. Beautiful scene. And this is our first time seeing rain in this trailer. This rain is next to what kind of looks like a beach, and we see a whole bunch of East Sea Shellos and East Sea Gastrodon hanging out over here. Next up is our first look at Stantler's brand new evolution, Wyrdeer, or as I like to call it, Wyrdeer. And this Wyrdeer is going to be coming over, kind of like, I immediately get Pride Rock, Lion King sort of vibes from this. Also, if we look at the cloud formation, this is some absolutely beautiful cloud formation. It's no longer, you're seeing one giant thing going by. Instead, it's all broken up. Very nice clouds. From here, our screen is transitioning to one of the first glimpses that we get of the actual town in the game, Jubilife Village. Looking at this large building and the logo in the middle, this is going to be the headquarters for the Galaxy team, which it's very obvious that there's similarities between this logo here and what would become the antagonists of Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, Team Galactic. In fact, there's pretty much the G that exists right here going across the top, except there's an A and sort of a J looking symbol over here. We also see a large Jade Magikarp. This kind of reminds me of the Jade statues that we saw in the vast underground area in the Diamond and Pearl remakes. We can see that there is a building here, and these icons would lead me to believe that this is a barber or a place that you could change your hairstyles at, as it kind of looks like a pair of scissors. This is the first hint that we've had that you are able to customize your trainer, and not just their outfit, but their actual hairstyle as well. Yeah, especially with this sign here, I'm gonna go with this as a haircut, barber, salon, haircut place. Now, with a further glimpse out of the Galaxy headquarters, we see this large chimney that is clearly a Galarian wheezing, and I think that's pretty awesome. This sort of goofy looking fellow over here is Professor Leventon. He's a member of the Survey Corps, and he's the one who's going to be hosting the small outside areas where you're going to be able to rest up with your Pokemon. We also get our first look at the map of the building that we're currently standing in. It's unclear what these different rooms are, although we do know that there are sort of three factions or, different areas, including the Medical Corps, the Security Corps, and the Survey Corps. This fellow over here, he's in charge of the Survey Corps. And now, a sort of different look at the quick pan that we saw where everyone was like, oh yeah, this is definitely Breath of the Wild. As it pans out, we can see that there's a large river running through the area, possibly a small bridge here. We do know that you have to complete a certain amount of research tasks in order to travel to different areas. This right here is the map that was released as part of the press details as well as on the website. At the very bottom left here, we can see Jubilife City. We can see a whole bunch of Finneon. Vast snowy region taking up almost a quarter of the entire map. We do see that there are several people over here and they seem to be wearing very different attire from what our people wear down here. There is some people over here hanging out in this sort of plains looking area, a sort of, I would say maybe even a marshland, a beautiful bay that kind of reminds me of Isle of Armor, and a scarier looking bay where a Gyarados is hanging out. Grr, he's so scary. If I had to take a guess on where the scene takes place, I would say that the protagonist is going to be over here, over this mountain ridge, looking over this way. We could even see what appears to be a small trail of sorts, so it's quite possible that the trainer is standing right here next to the trail, and then that leads us to the small bridge, and then the large hilly region present right here. Small bridge, big trail. We do know that this area is called the Obsidian Fieldlands. We now see the trainer running and chasing what appears to be some Chimchar, and we can see some Chingling in the background, this being the second of the 3 different starters. Playing back this very short clip in real time, we could see that the Chingling are moving at a much smoother pace, and that's absolutely fantastic to see. Because honestly, that was one of my biggest problems with the first trailer that we saw, how bad the Chingling were moving. We now get our first look at the sort of marshland, wasteland looking area, most likely over here on the map, and we could tell that now is not only some marshland, but also some large mud puddles where these Hippowdon and Hippopotas are hanging out. We can also see the variation in flora in the entire area, as these trees appear to be much different from the ones we saw at the beach and in the Obsidian Fieldlands. Right here we get our first look at a step toward the final UI, and we can see over here that there's some Beautifly just hanging out, a Wurmple inside of this grass. At the bottom left, we're going to see that if you hit the minus button, you're going to be accessing, honestly, what looks like a phone. So that's confusing because I thought this was ancient times. The D up is going to bring us to what appears to be items, Pokemon, and maybe information. And then D down, it almost looks like this is a notepad or a notebook. I guess that's, your notebook with your current objectives. On the right side, we see that there are 14 Pokeballs in the player's inventory, and there's an X prompt, and then sort of a recycle or go back icon. Unsure of what this is at this time. Replaying this clip, I see that while the trainer did lock on to this Wurmple, it doesn't seem to be so much of a lock on, but more of a notification of it was highlighted and then it sort of faded away. Also, at no point did the camera sort of lock on to the Wurmple. That would lead me to believe that that sort of glowy and fading away would notify you that that is a Pokemon that you can lock onto, but the player did not. And we saw that same sort of lock on prompt, and now we could see that once the player did lock onto the Pokemon, the camera then fixed in a direct axis. We also now see that we have a crosshair showing up, presumably to throw the Pokeball. Yep, that's exactly what happened. The Pokemon did sort of like a injured or damaged animation when it was hit with the Pokeball, as it should, because you're throwing this large piece of wood and rock at it. It's like, ah, and then it shrinks down into the ball. Contrary now, we see the player running toward this large open beach area. I believe on the map this is where the Gyarados is, just because that's where we have that large semicircle. I would also believe that that is that because for it to be this semicircle and still have Mount Coronet in the background, the player would be pretty much right over here, looking at the circle, Mount Coronet in the background. Also, I can't help but notice this sort of archipelago of islands going off to the side and this one large volcano in the background. Maybe there's another island that we can visit. Maybe it's for a specific event or legendary or mythical or just part of the story or the post game. No one knows at this time. If we look to the bottom right, we're now going to see that the player has 3 Pokemon to choose from. We still see the same X and the same rotate icon. So now I'm starting to believe that hitting the X button won't actually swap between Pokeballs and something else. Instead, we do know that you are going to have other types of Pokeballs in the game. We do know about the Heavy Ball so far, so it's possible that hitting the X button will actually just rotate from this item to this item to this item and possibly, invisible inventory on either side. likewise when scrolling through the 3 different Pokemon. This is also our first look at the new regional variant of Growlithe, Hisuian Growlithe, who is a fire rock type because it has this big old adorable fur, and the fur is as hard as a rock, but it's very frail, so it only uses it on rare times. Approaching the Hisuian Growlithe, we are going to see that we have the same crosshairs as before. However, we see now that there is a red at the top. This leads me to believe that this is a different crosshair that's involved when you're throwing a Pokemon as opposed to throwing a Pokeball. The player did not have to lock on to the Pokemon to throw the Pokeball at it. We have a beginning battle cry animation coming from the Hisuian Growlithe. Possibly that's going to happen before every battle or just before the first time you encounter that Pokemon. This Growlithe is level 32, male, has its health bar here. We have our health bar with appropriate number here. We can see that the player does have 6 Pokemon in its inventory right below the Vulpix's health. Sorry that YouTube has the highlighty thing right now. Vulpix now has the option for Quick Attack, Nasty Plot, Flame Wheel, and Hex. We could assume that these 4 icons are specific to the type of the attack. We have the PP meter. We have L and R to go between the strong style and the agile style. We also see this triangular icon that I don't believe I've seen before. I have seen the dot before, but I haven't seen the triangle. And now here's the weird part. We have the move Hex here, and we know what Hex does. If a Pokemon is afflicted by a status, it does more damage. So because of that, it does not have the stronger agile options. Nasty Plot, which is a status move, may have strong and agile options, because what I thought originally that I think would be really nice is, say for example, Nasty Plot, if you use the agile style, it does the regular effects. If you use the strong style, then your stats will go up 2-fold of what Nasty Plot normally does, but you're put lower in the order. We have not seen the order yet in this individual screen. We're also going to see that the plus button is going to give us sort of a search icon. Maybe this is to identify more, because we do see that X is move info, right? So we would hit X when we learn more about what Quick Attack does. Not too sure what this plus button is for. Maybe the plus button is going to allow us to look more at the Pokemon. And the Y button, the Y button is clearly to trigger the order of attacks that would show up on the side that we're going to be seeing a little bit later in this video. I also really love this letterbox effect. That's really just bringing everything right to the middle and the center and the focus. My only request / critique is to have this Pokemon a little bit more centered. Maybe the right stick will actually allow you to pan over, because we have the middle of the screen being sort of between our trainer and our Pokemon, and then this guy's just completely off to the side. Instead, I would like it to be panned a little bit more, you know, circling around the 2 Pokemon themselves. Vulpix use Quick Attack. I love this very transparent window that pops up, as opposed to pretty much every other Pokemon game that has that hard window with no transparency. When Vulpix does Quick Attack, there's a large amount of screen animation going on that may be disturbing to some people. I know that a whole bunch of websites, even Pokemon's website, have an option to reduce motion. Maybe that might even be a thing here. And seeing that Vulpix use Quick Attack, we see that it's not very effective, because now Growlithe is a rock type. We now see the trainer throwing a Pokeball at Hisuian Growlithe, the bestest boy. After the Pokemon was damaged, it goes in the ball. Is there not going to be a 3-shake system that we're very familiar with? Instead, is it just going to be a catch fail? Is it going to, pop out at different times? We do know that the smoke is the indicator that the Pokemon is caught, the same thing as when the stars pop off of the Pokeball, even though, this one is much more organic. Not really too sure how we know if we're going to be able to catch a Pokemon or if it's going to break free or not. And there's the smoke. And there's the stars as well. This is our first look at one of the camps. These are base camps. Whenever you leave Jubilife Village to set out on an excursion, your first stop is going to be one of the base camps that will serve as a handy outpost for your work. You can stop by to rest during an excursion, letting your team of Pokemon recover their health, or you could use a workbench to craft some items. This small table over here seems to be where we're going to be able to craft some items. We could assume that this guy over here, he sells some things to us. We see an area that the player can lay down. We could also assume that when you rest here, your Pokemon rest, and you rest as well, as we know that you do have your own life meter, because, Pokemon can attack you. I've yet to see any sort of flora or any sort of specific items around that look like that we can pick them up and collect them. So now I'm wondering if they are going to be appearing like Breath of the Wild, or if they're going to be glistening spots like items are in the wild area. We now see the player entering what seems to be an old rundown Colosseum structure. Looking back to the map, there's one area that sort of resembles this right at the base of Mount Coronet next to a river. We do not see a river. Instead, it looks like we're coming through two large rocks areas, so maybe the path behind this tree. Actually, it looks like we're going to be visiting this somewhat early if we're leaving here and we're going through this way. On the map, I'm not really seeing any area that's depicted with having red trees as well, or orange trees, except for a little bit over here, but that's clearly like a coastal area. Meanwhile, in this clip right here, we see that we're running up towards more ruins, and there's a lot of orange and green and even a little bit of pink trees in the background. In fact, looking at this reminds me so much of the area of Breath of the Wild right next to Robbie's lab, that you're at the top and you have all the red and green trees mixed in with each other. This area reminds me of a lot of Akala region from Breath of the Wild. Our next scene, the player is going to be standing on top of this cliff overlooking this large snowland that sort of has a large ice pillar in the middle, which is clearly visible here on the map. Not too sure exactly where the player is standing, but if Mount Coronet's in the background, then the player would kind of be by this large ice coliseum, maybe even on this cliff or mountain over here. This area does look extremely barren right now. Of course, you know, we're still months out from this game being done, and this may be old footage, so there may be a lot more stuff involved in here, or it may only appear once we actually get closer. Something that does seem to be absent throughout the entire video is any presence of flying type Pokemon, or Pokemon that are just kind of hanging out not near the grass. So I'm interested in seeing further development on how that's going to be playing out. So we do know that there's fall damage in the game, and the player just jumped off of the cliff, and then Hisuian Braviary immediately showed up with this sort of, you know, thing that we can hang on. Also, this is our first look at Hisuian Braviary. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But it does seem as though you are going to be able to just have the assisting Pokemon just help you out whenever you want. This is essentially acting just like the paraglider in Breath of the Wild. We did not see Braviary anywhere. Player is here, running, jumping off of a cliff. Granted, you know, there may be some UI that's masked right now and we're not actually able to see what it is. Player jumps off, and then after jumping off is going to be appearing with Hisuian Braviary. Sorry, I'm gonna say Braviary. It's just how I say the Pokemon's name. I know it's wrong, that's fine. We also saw that there was sort of a glowing animation of increasing height, so maybe you just hit the A button and you increase in height. Oh, look at the little bridge right there. Okay, so yeah, apparently there are these little bridges to go over the waterways. I am interested because, you know, there's a big emphasis on this is before Pokemon and people were friends. What exactly is different about you that allows you to actually be, you know, summoning these Pokemon and riding from them? Has Hisuian Braviary always been a form of, you know, travel in this region? Hisuian Braviary is a flying and psychic type, maybe because it's psychic type, it just knows when you need help. And according to the information that we have on it so far, there's a lot of talk about it being in winter and snowy regions, so possibly Braviary is going to be available over here. This is so cool. We have a little bit of ruins and a bridge next to a tree-lined river. Something that I really like is this sort of glossy lighting effect that happens on surfaces. Of course, this area is very overcasty, but even far away, now I don't know if this is supposed to be snow or not. Over here, it's definitely not snow, that's lighting effects. But I like the way that the cliffs in the background just have a little bit of shine to them, to give them a little bit of depth and dimension. We have just a little bit of texture going on just to help break it all up, and it adds so much contrast and it's so welcoming to the eyes. Now we see the player flying at nighttime over, obviously, Pride Rock. In addition to how cool it is that we could fly and everything, there has to be some sort of fast travel system. Maybe at the base camps when speaking with Professor Laventon, he's going to give you the option of fast travel between different base camps. And once you complete enough of the Pokedex tasks in an area, you get access to a new area. He sets up a base camp over there. Or maybe you have to travel to that area on foot and, you know, trek it over there, really explore what's going on, come back and saying, oh, it looks like there's a bunch of activity there, let's set up a base camp, and then you're going to be able to fast travel there. I think that'd be a really healthy system. And I'm not really one for speculating on things, but this game is really just completely changing the format and obviously borrowing things from real RPGs, Final Fantasy inspired battle system, Breath of the Wild inspired world. So it's not out of the question to think that that sort of system is going to exist. Now we're getting our first look at Basculegion, the evolution of Basculeon. We do know that Basculegion comes in its red striped form and in its blue striped form. And while this is clearly more of a bright, hot pink fuchsia, I would believe that this is based off of the red stripe form, and possibly the blue stripe form has its own visual difference. And there's this little adorable seat and the little petals on it. So maybe just like with Braviary, as soon as you get to water, you're going to be automatically on it, or you can summon or just hit a button and then you're going to be on it. And Basculegion is going to be able to use waterfall to go up and down these waterfalls. While we're seeing down the waterfall, we could assume you could go up as well. This clip has Basculegion going around a large rock structure in the middle. I'd wonder if that rock structure has importance, but I do believe that this is this small circle over here, which is completely enclosed by rocks, maybe has, you know, a path out to the sea over here, but it has one large rock in the middle. That's where I believe that we are going to be viewing this over here. Or possibly it could be this very similar thing over here. This is very much so a clip of this large semicircle once again. What's interesting though is we could see that there's one of the base camps in the background. It's actually kind of a large structure. We also see what the trees look like really far away, and granted, you're not really focusing on that, but they do look rough. However, there's an upside down boat and is that a marooned boat? Yes, I was right. That's when a boat is marooned. Fun fact about me, I have my boating license. Got it when I was but a wee lad. It's unclear at this time if this is going to be, you know, just where boats were from ancient times, or if there's going to be a community of people who use these boats to go out and fishing, although it looks like these boats are very old and no longer in working condition. We're also now seeing that we can ride Wyrdeer wherever we want, and that's going to help us with traveling over terrain quickly. I wonder if the calculations that are done for the horses in Breath of the Wild, like there was this whole big discussion about it because they actually calculate all the possible paths and routes. I wonder if Wyrdeer has the same thing, that you could just kind of let go and it's going to trot around and you're going to be able to avoid trees and stuff, or if you actively have to hold a direction and ride it. Know what I mean? Okay, now seeing these torches, I'm pretty sure they're just borrowing assets from Breath of the Wild. Also, it looks like we're really moving here. We're running over by a large ice lake. Would that be this ice lake over here that has the one rock in the middle? I do believe that is where we are in this clip. This section has a very large emphasis on riding Pokemon. So you can pretty much guarantee no HMs are required in this game. Beautiful clip as we fade out. From here, we're kind of led to what possibly is one of the plot points involving Mount Coronet and possibly Arceus himself. That there's a large disturbance going on and sort of a wormhole-like structure opening above. We see a whole bunch of electricity gather and red, green, and blue little dots come flying out of it. And we also see a lot of activity going on with this one tree right here, which, with the presence of all the Bidoof and the Bibarel and the one large tree, we could assume that this is the large tree directly in the middle of the map. Now we're going to see that there are Pokemon that have red in their eyes, including this Ursaring, this Gyarados, and this Luxray. Now it should be noted that these are, you know, powerful / final form Pokemon. And this could be a stark contrast to the Pokemon that we saw earlier. However, it should be noted that our team consisting of Crobat, Lucario, and Rhydon. This may actually be something in the game that takes place later on. So instead of it just being all happy willy-nilly, walking around exploring, there is going to be something that's going to change the Pokemon, and the areas are going to become more dangerous. Think of, while playing through Breath of the Wild after completing a few Divine Beasts, you're then going to have the areas with higher level enemies. Also, please, please, please dynamic level system. We see the player riding Basculegion in this small lake next to a waterfall where Gyarados is. Maybe you would need to defeat and or capture this Gyarados to actually go up this waterfall. And now the Luxray hits you with a Thunderbolt. If you pay close attention to this clip, while there's no visible life meter or hearts or anything going on, you are going to notice that when the player is struck, there's now a black border around the outside. And later on in the footage, we actually see when you're hit with too much damage, right before it, there's a red border. So I'm starting to think maybe there's this black border that appears and then it gets deeper and bigger and redder until you actually black out. And maybe they do that instead of a life meter? We're not too sure yet. This is still, nowhere near a final product. Ursaring is now doing a run at the player, and you have to dodge out of the way. Once again, using the target, the top half is red. That shows that we're throwing out a Pokemon. I do like that the crosshairs do have something that specifies that you're going to be throwing a Pokemon and not a Pokeball. Know what I mean? Ursaring use Slash. It's level 41. Oh, right here. We have this icon, and maybe it's Enraged or Fury or something specific to this game. Maybe it makes the Pokemon more powerful, or maybe it's just to show that, they currently have the whole red eyes going on. In addition, when riding Basculegion, you can then do battles on water. I love that. I love that so much. And yeah, level 60 Gyarados has the Fury icon going on here. Wow. Rip Crobat. The strong style animation is neat. I'm just hoping it doesn't pop up literally all the time, because that's going to get very old very fast. Maybe there might even be like a menu option to toggle between it. If I'm not mistaken, that did look like a Great Ball. Yeah, that is very clearly a Great Ball. Blue with the red stripes. So we do know about the Heavy Ball, which is just a heavier Pokeball that has a better chance of catching Pokemon, but you can't throw it as far. We have confirmation of Pokeball, and now we have confirmation of Great Ball. All three of these were caught with Great Balls. It lands. It does a hop with the smoke. And then it's caught. Maybe it's just the one hop. Maybe the one hop is the time that it can break out. In this scene right here, we now see the Gyarados, Ursaring, and Luxray, and they no longer have red in their eyes, which leads me to believe maybe it's sort of like Gale of Darkness, where you have these shadow Pokemon and you have to treat them. Maybe that's the reason that there's a medical core inside of the Galaxy group. Who knows? Who knows? Which leads me to the question of, why are these Pokemon just chilling here? You know what I mean? They don't appear to be wild Pokemon, especially with the variety that we have. Is this sort of like a camp? You could just choose to throw your Pokemon out in the overworld, and then you could just hang out in the middle of them, and maybe when you walk away, they all go back in the balls? Who knows? Hisuian Growlithe, he's such a good boy. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. You're gonna be on my team. We're now seeing Lucario kick a tree, and then Apricorns fall out. We do know that the Apricorns are how you're going to be making Pokeballs in this game. Maybe they were berries. Who knows? They did look like blue Apricorns though. We see a Tentacruel just hanging out in the water, and Basculegion is able to hop over it. Golduck is now doing some sort of water attack, and you're able to avoid it by just going zoomies. We see the same attack over there. Okay, this makes me so happy. Look how big Onix is. Okay? Literally in the BDSP trailer, Skorupi and Onix being the same size. If Stunky is over here, and then the Stunky's evolution is there, or maybe I have the names mixed up, whatever. Onix is very large in the background, so it does appear as though the Pokemon in the overworld, they are going to have extreme sizes, which of course, now we have to go find Wailord. Honestly, with how this world is constructed, I could totally imagine little max raid dens everywhere. I mean, it would make it feel much less natural, but it could work. Although they did say specifically that ranked battles are not going to be with BDSP or Legends Arceus, as I'm pretty sure they want to keep the Dynamax and Gigantamax features as being, you know, the main battle points. So it would make sense that they don't bring it over to this game. Because if they brought Dynamax over, then, you know, why wouldn't they have the ranked battles here? If that is the whole shtick of this generation. Getting on to the second part of the presents that included the narration, I'm just going to be focusing on anything that we haven't seen before. Inside of Jubilife City, we do have this large sweeping shot that shows a very large building over here. I'm not really too sure what that is. Also, there's been no mention, I just realized now, of gyms, gym leaders, any sort of powerful trainers, or anything else like that. So I'm interested, you know, what specifically are the progression checkpoints in this game? You know what I mean? Like for Breath of the Wild, they were divine beasts, and then you also had 120 shrines everywhere. In this game, you have a whole bunch of Pokemons, but what's the shrine equivalent? What's the divine beast equivalent, you know? It would also appear as though Laventon is actually the guy who's going to be giving you your starter Pokemon. Also, fun fact, Commander Kamado over here is an ancient ancestor of Professor Rowan from Diamond and Pearl. So, that's neat. Oh, in addition, a lot of people have pointed out that Captain Cyllene may be an ancient ancestor of Cyrus from Team Galaxy. Because, you know, they both have blue hair and, you know, a very almondy shape face. Also, she looks, you know, very intimidating. And like she's not there to have fun. Also, I just happen to have this photo up when I just Googled Cyrus's name. But it just so happened that this art right here is the same pose that she's just standing in. So, you know, the chances of that, right? That's a pink apricot tree. Apricorn, damn it. Oh, here we go. This is our first look at the actual game map. We see that on the top right, we have the current time of day. That looks like dawn. We have the option to zoom in and out with ZL and ZR. Missions and requests with the Y button. The R button looks like it may, you know, shrink and expand this. And then this is what the map looks like. We can see that at the very beginning of the game, you do have access to specific areas, and these areas are covered with giant clouds because you have not unlocked access to them yet, which does make sense. Once you highlight a specific area, the area starts to glow, and we see that at the top left, these are the Obsidian Fieldlands. Not too sure specifically what that icon is. The cursor did hover over it, and it didn't look like we were given an option to fast travel, or maybe it's just not unlocked yet during that screenshot. And here we do have confirmation that this guy who is going to be at the outpost is going to be selling you stuff. It does appear though the items he have includes a Pokeball, some sort of spice, a revive, and I guess that's just rice. You can toggle sell and buy with ZL and ZR. Something that I have talked about before in my website deep dive, it looks as though you're going to have the option of storing items, like this is your pouch and this is your item storage. So interested to see how that's going to play out, if you have like a finite inventory of stuff that you can carry or exactly what's going on. I would assume that you could access your pouch at any time, but you could only access storage at these specific camps. We also see that next to the Pokeball is the Heavy Ball. Apparently we can craft spices. Maybe that's a full heal? I don't know. And it looks like we can actually craft a revive. So that's neat. And as I mentioned before, the Heavy Ball, it's too heavy to fly high or far, but it's highly effective if you manage to hit an unsuspecting Pokemon. I'm happy that the Heavy Ball has more of a specific tactical use, as opposed to before where you need to know the calculations and how heavy a Pokemon is in order to use a Heavy Ball effectively. I'm also really interested. Hang on. In this game, you're going to be throwing these ancient Pokeballs and these ancient Heavy Balls. We do have confirmation that Pokemon Home is going to be supported. Does that mean when those Pokemon are transferred into Pokemon Home that their ball type is going to be preserved as the old Pokeball and the old Heavy Ball. And if you were to bring them into Sword and Shield, for example, you would see the old Pokeball style. That's dope. I hope that's a thing. I hope that's a thing. It tried to hit you with what looked like a thunder shock or something. And here's an alternate shot where you are getting hit. The red thing around the outside, I think this is an indicator that you're low on health. Oh yeah, maybe that was low on health because then when you were hit away, you took a knee. And did the Pokemon disappear? Yeah, the Pokemon disappeared and you blacked out. So now we know what it looks like when you're low on health. We see the player waking up from taking a nappy poo. Your party Pokemon rested and are all happy and healthy again. Neat. Oh, here we go. If we look at the bottom right, I actually did miss this before. We have Pokeballs, Great Balls, and Ultra Balls. And I would assume that the X button, as I mentioned before, would rotate them through in a carousel fashion. Request 1, Wurmple can evolve. Maybe these requests are separate from the notebook requests, and these are actually side missions? Oh, we get a shot of these Chatot hanging around these 2 abandoned boats that we saw very, very far in the background. And my prediction was that takes place a little bit over here. Here we get our first look at the actual transition of throwing out a Pokemon. The wild Pokemon is gonna do a cry animation. And now if you look to the bottom left, you're gonna see that sort of paint swipe. Your Pokemon stuff shows up, and then we're gonna have the bottom right and the top right all sort of flow in. Here, there's the action order. I think the Y button will actually just hide that for you. It appears as if though you could swap between Pokemon with L and R. Fight, run, items, and Pokemon. I also like that when you get ready to issue a command, your actual player stance changes. Here we have a Laventon at one of the field outposts, and it says, you've caught 3 Pokemon, care to report your findings. So it does appear as though we have to check in with him in order to complete these tasks and update the Pokedex. We do know for a fact that just catching the Pokemon doesn't actually mark the Pokedex page full. Instead, there's a lot more involved than that. Pokedex Scene 3, caught 2. Of the Obsidian Fields, it's 3 and 2. At the bottom left, no star member. And at the bottom right, your current research points and how many you need for the next rank. Okay. Here we have the entire Hisuian region appearing on the right. Bidoof, Starly, and Shinx. Those are the 3 Pokemon that have been seen. Only 2 of them are caught, and that's the reason that they're colorful. A new species of Pokemon you discovered. Catch some and report back to the professor. Research level is 0 on Shinx. We could assume that the ZR is going to allow us to toggle between the regions. That would lead me to believe that there are 5 specific regions in the entire world. This is everything. This is probably also what the icon looks like on the details page. And then these 5 specify the 5 different areas. This, of course, being the Obsidian Flower Fields. Going on to the second tab here, we see the research tasks for Shinx. Number caught, defeated, number you've defeated with ground type moves, times you've seen it use quick attack, times you've seen it use bite, number of forms you've registered, number you've evolved. This was a little confusing to me. Number of forms you've registered. Form 1 of 2 showing up. Also, we can see that clearly there's the male icon. So now I'm leaning more in the direction of form is male and form is female, which I didn't think Shinx had a visual gender difference. Yep, there definitely is a gender difference. The little piece of hair on its head is slightly longer on the male than it is on the female. That is the gender difference of Shinx. Okay, there we go. That explains the number of forms registered. Never even realized that. That is so subtle. Wow. And I thought the whiskers on Abra were subtle. Oh, preferred foods. What is this? So there's a mushroom, something, some sort of flour or wheat, and a bean. Items carried. Cherry blossom, spoiled apricorn. So possibly, just like a real RPG, once you actually defeat the Pokemon, you're going to be getting dropped items. Huh, that's neat. I mean, Pokemon have always, you know, carried items, but now being more of a knock them out to farm specific items sort of thing, that's a classic RPG trait. Someone on my Twitter pointed out that the Hisuian Growlithe may be based off of the stone lion dogs that guard shrines and temples. Maybe even what Hisuian Arcanine is going to be looking like, which is also called a Foo dog. Yeah, look at that. Foo, F-O-O. There we go. Ancient Growlithe, maybe Ancient Arcanine. And there we go. That actually concludes every single clip, every single frame and detail that I have spotted so far on this Pokemon Presents. Wow, this has been an hour and 40-minute recording session going over 10 minutes of video. Well, guys, if there's anything I missed, which I'm not too sure how I could have, but if I did, please leave a comment down below. If there's any adjustments to this video that we found over the following days, it's going to be in a pinned comment down below. If you found it helpful, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button down below. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more Pokemon BDSP and Legends Arceus content. Until next time, Austin John out.